What's up, traders? Matt from the Trade Brigade here with your weekend crypto report, where as always, I do a technical analysis and give you my thoughts on the coins listed up above. You will notice at the very bottom of the list, we've actually added back MATIC USD, that's for the Polygon network, because it's actually in a new daily uptrend. Believe it or not, one of the smaller coins flipped to an uptrend first. So we'll talk about that in just a moment towards the end of the video, but for now, we're kicking things off on our Bitcoin daily time frame here. So what do we see in front of us from a price structure perspective? Very simple analysis here. We have a balance range in place, and that means that balance rules are in place as well. If you're not familiar with the balance rules, let's walk through them together. Let me make a little bit of room here off to the right, and we can talk about it. So scenario number one is a breakout and go. In that instance, you're looking to double roughly the range of the balance. But notice also that would take us up and over this set of highs. On a breakout here, I would really be concerned with $23,000 per coin, because that's clearly where we failed to get the dead cat bounce from in the past. Also, depending on time of week and when and if this breakout even happens in the first place, that would be dead on with our resistance trend line as well. So I really wouldn't push it much further than 23,000 per coin here inside of Bitcoin if we get an upside breakout. So that's scenario number one of the balance rules. Scenario number two is that we get a look above and fail, and we've already experienced that once. That's essentially what we talked about in last week's video and happened right here. We looked above the range, we failed back into the range, and the target is always the bottom end. Could that happen again? Absolutely, so keep that on your radar as a possibility as well. Of course, if we never break out of the range in the first place, we just come up here, wick off of it, put in an inverted hammer. Of course, the look is for a short underneath that to play ping pong once again and come into the bottom of the range here as well. It's very similar to the look above and fail, but the look above and fail is even more powerful because it's a sign of weakness from the buyers and a failed breakout, right? And after you fail the move, essentially, the other side of the trade should come back stronger. Hence, you see this, basically straight down move into the bottom of the range. So nonetheless, those are the scenarios at play here inside of Bitcoin. Of course, they can happen in reverse at the bottom end of the range. Let's say we roll over early, we trickle on down to the bottom end. We can, of course, double the range to the downside on a true breakdown. That brings us to our target around $16,250 per coin. We can have a look below and fail, just as we discussed to the upside. The target would be the top end of the range this time because it's reversed, of course. That would be the upside trade. And of course, don't forget also, the Bitcoin market might just want to go sideways inside of this area. And in that case, again, you're just playing ping pong back and forth, or you're sitting on the sidelines saying, you know what, there's nothing to really do here until we can break out of this range and get some volatility in the Bitcoin market and maybe potentially start a new trend. Whether or not that's up or down, we will have to wait and see. But given the fact that we are headed towards the top of the range, I figured we'd discuss the upside possibilities first. So that's what we've got inside of the Bitcoin daily time frame. I would also remind you, let's scrunch up the chart. Let's give ourselves some perspective. Look at what happened last time. There was a balance range, right? It went sideways until we hit the resistance trend line. Of course, yes, there was a catalyst that caused the serious sell side activity here, but the question remains the same ultimately is, will the downtrend continue here? AKA, will we get to the resistance trend line and then roll back over for some more downside? It certainly is a possibility and something you should be keeping in the back of your mind, especially if you're trying to play upside breaks. Like if we get to the resistance trend line and we're just met firmly with sellers, obviously, you're probably not going to push your luck and look for more upside, right? Maybe you trim some of the position, and then after a break, if a break comes in the first place, then after a confirmed higher low, we can start to shift our bias. But for now, balance rules in place, skeptical on longs, not looking for the true range double, resistance trend line at $23,000 per Bitcoin. Moving along, Ethereum is up next. What do we see inside of Ethereum? Same exact deal. If we just pop this, oops, we don't want auto. We just want to adjust this to the midpoint of the screen so it's easier on the eyes. Same exact thing, right? Here is your balance range. Instead of having that hang up area up ahead, we have some clearance here in Ethereum. So from that perspective, maybe this one is where you want to look for the long. We've come wall to wall from bottom all the way up to the top. I would say, because we have that, coming up from the bottom phenomenon, you should look for a higher low pullback, reattempt in short proximity of time. This could even happen, by the way, on like an hourly time frame, on a 4-hour time frame. It doesn't have to be the daily time frame, but a little bit of pullback first and then a reattempt in short proximity of time off of a clear higher low from here to here definitely sets up the breakout of this balance area. And again, your trend line is much further ahead here. We don't really have to contend with any level here through this thin structure from the breakdown, right? So Ethereum might be the better long, not necessarily Bitcoin, into the resistance trend line. That could be roughly, depending on time of week, if this happens next week, right? We're looking at roughly $1,500 per coin as a potential ballpark target. Doesn't have to go there, but watch for the resistance trend line generally as the next target and stop up ahead. If we get the look above and fail, we already discussed the same exact psychology over on Bitcoin. That could also be in play here. If you see a move that starts to move ahead, it doesn't form a higher low, but instead it actually breaks down here and fails back inside the prior range here. That, of course, sets up the move all the way back down to the bottom, $1,000 per Ethereum, okay? So that's what we've gotten. By the way, the breakout point on the top side is going to be 1250. So about a 250-point range in between the top and bottom of this daily balance. Just like Bitcoin, if we were to scrunch this chart up and give ourselves a little bit of perspective, please just don't forget that this is still in an overall downtrend. Could this be the beginnings of a reversal? Maybe, but I wouldn't bet on it quite yet until the trend clearly switches back to the upside. Next up, Binance Coin, BNB. What's going on in this one? Bed and breakfast? No, Binance Coin. Let's go ahead and take a look. So ascending triangle, much more bullish than what we've seen in terms of just daily balance ranges that are going sideways. You can clearly see that we have a set of equal highs here, but the main difference is that we're coming off of consecutive higher lows. So with that, the bulls are strengthening here and the sellers obviously weakening. If the sellers were strong, they would have kept coming in for the equal low and set up the breakdown, right? It's simply not the case here inside of Binance Coin. So for now, watching this level like a hawk, that's 243.10 for an upside breakout to get us to 258.70. That would be that would be a kind of a scalp target, I suppose you could consider it. And then after that, it really opens up for the resistance trend line and the bottom end of this flush point here from 285.90, 286, if you like nice round numbers, basically moving through all of this thin structure in here. The reason that we still have 258.70 on the screen is because if we pop this on auto, and remember the historical significance of it, I mean, that's a major level. So in the short term, yeah, we've traded through it on the downside, this right here. But overall, if we were to reattempt it, I would at least want to know about the level. So if there is some sort of reaction, we can prepare accordingly and say, okay, we're kind of getting stuffed here. Big rejection off of that daily level from off to the left. At least we know what's going on. So that's why it's there. But ultimately, if we just blast right up through it, like we sort of fell through it here, then again, the target is up a little bit higher, around 285.90, 286. If you like nice round numbers. To keep this one in play, it's very simple. If this were to break down underneath the support trend line, the pattern is invalidated. You would look for at least an equal low to this area in here, around 207, if not the equal low at the very base of the pattern, closer to 185. Next up is Cardano ADA. This one continues to exhibit extreme relative weakness. Let me just scrunch up the chart, give you some perspective here. It's still hanging out dead on these lows. If we zoom back in a little bit, one thing I want to point out, apologies for all those like micro adjustments that the platform does, but here we go, that's a little bit smoother. What I would point out is that we have broken down from the descending triangle that we've been talking about for quite some time. So here was the breakdown. Is it going to be a break, retest, and then rollover? That would be my favorite outcome here just because the downtrend is so harsh and there's really it doesn't strike me that anyone's buying Cardano at this point in time. I mean, this was the best buying volume we'd seen in a while, and it's still stuffed for a clear lower high on the back test of that prior support. So overall, I'm not convinced that this will recapture the bottom end of the range here at 44 cents roughly. If it does go for a massive reversal, that's fine. I wouldn't want to get involved until the trend line breaks and at least takes us to 55 cents, right? That might be a trade in here with tight risk, something that, your stop goes right under here, roughly a 2-to-1, depending on how you play it. If you can move your stop to break even as soon as possible, maybe it's better than that, but you get the gist. That's the only long setup here. Other than that, the chart looks extremely weak inside of Cardano. Next up, Solana. What's going on here? A little bit of range compression. If I just scrunch up the chart a little bit, you'll notice how we do have similar sort of looks to what we just saw in Binance Coin, right, with the ascending triangle, but we also have the lower highs, so it's on the other side as well. That's essentially what makes up a symmetrical triangle as a pattern, and overall, we're just waiting for a break one way or another, and of course, when that happens, you're looking to fill up this triangle or looking to fill up this triangle down here. It's as simple as that. Your upside target is going to be around 42.67. After that, this prior support, which then flipped to resistance, is at 48. That's the next upside target, and if it rolls over for a break of the support trend line, filling up the triangle takes us to 26.25, okay? So patience play here. The range is compressing. There's no reason to really get overly active as the range is compressing. Just wait for a break one way or another and then go with it. If it does something like this, again, you get something very similar to balanced rules where it's not technically a look above and fail, but it's just a failure to break out. And in that sense, you would obviously close that trade and potentially watch for the flush underneath the horizontal level that would offer some support. So 32 would be that area that you would watch out for. So let's actually map that out together. There we go. We have 32 on the chart now. So again, a fake break, and then that comes down to here. That would be concerning for the breakdown to the base of the pattern. And again, filling up this triangle right here. That's Solana. Last but not least, MATIC USD. What's going on here? Why did it make the cut today? Because it actually broke out. It actually shifted to a new daily uptrend. So we had a set of lows. We had a set of higher lows. We had a high. We had an equal high. But look at what happened over the last 3 days. We actually confirmed a new higher high and a new higher low. So with those two things in place, we can now say that MATIC is technically in a daily uptrend. So there is still some work to be done. I'm not necessarily saying that this is completely out of the woods, but if we can crack this level right here, which is where we're finding some resistance right now, around 75 cents, there's a 25-cent range overhead to be trading for up into roughly that $1 mark, and also the prior flush point and resistance from right around in here. So that's why this one is attractive. I would want to see some sort of higher low pullback, just like we talked about in Ethereum coming up from the bottom end of the range. This did just set a new higher low and a new higher high, so it can afford a higher low pullback, and then the second attempt at the 75, kind of just like what you see here, right? So let's just equate this as similar. Here's a level. We make the run into it, pull back for a higher low, reattempt, and then it breaks. You want to see the same thing happen up here, right? So pullback, higher low, reattempt in short proximity of time, break that, you have a 25-cent range to trade for overhead, which is certainly lucrative on something that's trading sub $1 at this point in time. So that has been a rundown of your crypto markets for the weekend. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything new, let me know down below in the comments section or by giving the video a thumbs up. Don't forget that the weekly watch list video will be coming out as scheduled regularly on Sunday afternoon. And with all of that being said, I wish you a green trading week.